Hey folks, just a quick note before we start the show, just in case it gets a little confusing. This is kind of like two shows meshed into one. So the first part was a reaction we recorded to the recent news, and it goes on for about the first 45 minutes. Before we could release it, last week we were reached out to see if we could sit down and have a few minutes to kind of go over it and see where we may or may not be wrong. And so part two is where we kind of amended things. So there'll be a little pause break, and then we'll introduce you back to the second part. But kudos to them for reaching out to us and trying to have a conversation. I don't think it really swayed us in either direction. And you'll see that. Now, we had some of the numbers wrong in the first part, and some of it on our part is speculation as well. So we're speculating about the potential for speculation. So, some of it's factual, some of it's things we've heard from people on the inside. Some things are our own opinions, and some are, again, speculation. So we just want to lay it out for you all, and hopefully you all can have some questions as well, because that's what we really want. We want people asking questions and demanding answers, and that's it. And that should be expected at the least from, anybody in the government, whether that be a DMV employee all the way up to the president. If your paycheck is being funded by taxpaying citizens, then you should be answering any and every question that they have for you. So we hope you enjoy this show, and if you like what we do, you can always support us at patreon.com/getontap. This show is supposed to be a Patreon show, kind of like one of our little rants over there. But we decided to release it to the public because we think it's pretty important. But if you still want to go over there, $3 a month minimum, you get shows early, you get subscriber content, and we got some events coming up here soon. You'll be first in line to be able to join us for, and a lot of big things. So we appreciate all your support, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to a special edition of the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is my hot-headed, culturally appropriate, and co-host, Simon Winch. Simon, we had to jump on here and do an emergency podcast because my ass is chapped, and pretty sure yours is too.
Well, yes, it is. I don't have anything culturally inappropriate at the moment, but I'm sure during the space of this short podcast and the rant that is about to ensue, something will come up. I shall be inspired by something just to piss somebody off.
Well, good.
But that's okay, because I think we're about to piss a lot of people off, or at least point.
Well, we're not going to be pissing the right people off.
No.
The right people are going to be.
Well, they'll get to hear about this,
yes.
I hope, because I hope this one catches fire, because there's some questions out there with regarding a certain land purchase by our infamous Rocky Mount Town Council and EDA, whoever the hell they are. We got some questions.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like these episodes. I don't, and I'll tell you why.
They're not constructive.
They're not at all. I like sitting down. I like having some drinks, and I like telling awesome stories. I like sitting here with Colby Helms or Tyler Gotze or some of my Iraq buddies or up at the wood shop, just hearing random stories. Those are the shows I like. I like talking to people and learning about things. What I don't like is having to come on here.
Billy Hurt.
Exactly. I don't like
Fantastic
coming on
stuff.
here and having to point out the absurdness of what is going on politically in our town or in America. And I have a degree in political science, what I went to school for, and I was going to go to school to be an attorney, and I decided better of that because we've got too many attorneys in this freaking world, and I was going to find my footing at some point in time, and I think I found it here. Now, whether I make any money off this show or not does not matter, because we are inspiring people, and we are getting people to open their eyes, and to me, that's more important than anything else. any amount of money that's more important than any job. Other than my family, this is the most important thing in the world to me. And the reason I think we have success in this world, the fact that we are able to bring on, huge guests from all over the country with major impacts and national and regional influence, is because we're real. And we're real because of shows like this here today, this emergency show, because we are so irritated at
I'm going to try and keep it
things
clean, but I think people can probably read my mind when I say I'm hopping mad. It doesn't take many folks to figure out what normally would go in front of this. I'm trying to keep it polite so that people listen to the message and aren't offended by me having a rant. But you can picture how hot I am right now. I'm furious.
We're being joined here today. I'm going to let you introduce our guests here because you two go further back than I do. I'm just going to put it to you like this. I am in a room with a damn Yankee and a damn redcoat. And I guess I'm the Confederate guy in the mix of things here if we want to get down to brass tacks. Although I don't identify with the Confederacy or anything like that. Although I can appreciate their rebel spirit. And I know I'll probably get some flack for that, but for you mouth breathers out there who don't understand what the Civil War was about, go back and read some history. It had nothing to do with slavery, and until 2 years into the war, that wasn't even brought up. It took 2 years to Emancipation Proclamation. So don't even give me this crap. So, side point.
So anyway, we have with us a good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Nick Ferreri, a combat veteran, a Special Forces medic, amongst other things, multiple tours in all sorts of hellholes on this planet. He served this country admirably. And he's also launched, in conjunction really with some of our farming podcasts, a new page and website about local Franklin County produce, farm goods, and it really works hand in glove with what we've been saying, and he's taken that initiative and is doing something about it, and which is Stay Local Franklin County. So, this is Nick. Welcome aboard, Nick. Thank you for coming at such short notice.
Not a problem.
And you can find it. There's a Stay Local Franklin County page.
Yep.
Yeah,
there's a Stay Local Franklin County group as well. And
now the website.
And now a website.
And for anybody that's interested, go on there. You're going to find all local resources for food, like Foggy Ridge Farms or Foggy Ridge Cattle Company with our buddy Christ Montgomery.
Yeah, there's all sorts gonna evolve out of this that allows folks really a directory for making some wise protein and produce choices. And again, it's keeping money within Franklin County, which is really a driving force behind this, along with making, very healthy food choices, which is where we've fallen off the rails. And the USDA and FDA have basically enabled that to happen. So we're fighting back against that, and Nick has joined in and with this endeavour and is going to assist us in this message, which, I think is critical for our youth. It's critical for us. And we want to stick it to USDA, FDA. We want to screw the medical big pharma hooligans that are, leading us down a path of drug addiction and poor choices. So they're all connected. They're all connected, yeah. And I welcome what you're doing, Nick. I think it's great.
The more you research it and the more you see it, the more you find, like Billy was saying, everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Oh yeah, I mean the big food industry and the big ag, they give you produce that has been injected with hormones and steroids and pesticides and all this kind of stuff, and they're all interconnected to the big pharma. So they force feed you food that's going to keep you sick, and then you can go to big pharma to get the medicine. It's not going to really cure you, but it's going to make you be able to live with your sickness. So they're constantly making money off you at every single turn. But if you go support our local farms, you're putting food on their table, and you're putting food on your table, and the money's staying here in Franklin County.
Yep.
And this episode here today is kind of conjunction with all that. This is supposed to be one of our Patreon rants, and this episode was supposed to be us talking about the banking collapse that's been going on and about some other issues like that. Simon had reached out to me a few days ago and said, hey, we need to have an emergency show. Let's talk about this stuff that's going on. And I guess this kind of can relate to it to some degree because it kind of will leave you scratching your head. But instead of going that route, we've got another topic to discuss.
Which is very local.
Yes.
And we should all be concerned about this within Franklin County, and not just necessarily Rocky Mount, because Rocky Mount is the county seat. But if you look at the Rocky Mount Town Council page, they've made this, this fantastic announcement that for $6 million or $5 million, whatever, however many $1 million it is, they've managed to buy 60 odd acres or potentially 60 acres around the Taco Bell and cement plant. And we have some very serious questions about this because a lot of it isn't adding up. And here's the first piece of information I just want to share with everyone. The 40 acres that is behind Taco Bell that really is going to need some pretty serious work to make it developable, was bought in 2019 for the sum of $600,000. It has now been bought by the EDA under the advisement and advice of Rocky Mount Town Council behind a closed door, and they've purchased it for, I believe, $6 million. Now, in 2019, I don't know how an investment of $600,000 goes into $6 million. Just think about that for a little bit, because I've got some issues with just the numbers alone, but it goes a lot deeper than that, funnily enough, because the Rocky Mount Town Council, as far as I was concerned, wasn't mandated to be a property developer. But when you look at and read the article, it doesn't just talk about property development, because that's actually not what it is. What they're doing is they've bought it with the potential for development. So this project is actually not property development. This is property speculation. And I guarantee you that the EDA and Town Council are not mandated in any way, shape or form to do property speculation with your taxpayer dollars.
So wait, they don't even have a client for the property.
They don't have a plan for the property.
So they're just gonna buy.
They're just gonna buy it for future something.
Vegetation right now.
For future something.
Don't know what that something may be.
So there's some questions there, and we've got some characters involved in this that I'm somewhat concerned about, and even even Joe Stanley is siding with the town council and EDA on what a great idea this is. Now, you've got to bear in mind that Joe Stanley also was behind the campaign for Holland Purdue and his run for town council mayor.
We had them here on this very show.
And in fact, he was here on the very show. Didn't actually answer a great deal of questions, which was, politically predictable. Ben Mullins wouldn't even come on the show. And now we have, something going on. And I'm going to go into the EDA after a little back and forth with Nick and Billy. But we should all be extremely concerned about what's going on with taxpayer dollars here. And they'll cry, oh, this is economic development. This isn't taxpayer dollars. Well, someone please tell me where $6 million came from after you cocked up the harvester and that development. And who the hell are the EDA? I've got some questions.
Let's not forget about the Cox property, and let's not forget about the Summit View Development Park. I mean, our local government between Town Council and Board of Supervisors has done nothing but screw the pooch time after time after time.
Well, we're hearing also, when you bring up the Franklin County Board of Supervisors, I'm hearing certain rumours that they weren't even aware of this purchase.
It's the rumours I've been hearing.
I can't confirm that. That may be hearsay. So we'll gladly retract that.
If somebody wants to come on and tell us we're wrong.
Yeah, but it could also be just plausible deniability. Oh, we didn't know about this. We didn't authorize them to spend $7 million.
I don't know. There's some shady shit going on here that is probably going to get us into a boatload of trouble. But you know what? I'm not intimidated by any of you low-life cockroaches. So if you want to come after me, bring it on.
Yeah, let's talk about first this. It's $5 or $6 million. Let's just pretend it's $5 million just for the sake of argument here. At $5 million, they ended up paying $70,000 an acre.
Well, we're looking at 60 acres if you include the concrete plant. But then we're at the tip of the iceberg, because what we're now seeing with that land deal is actually not the cost of what it's going to take to relocate the concrete plant somewhere mysterious. I don't know where. Probably
over there off of Weaver Street and the old Cox property.
Who knows?
Is where I've heard that it's probably going to go, which is also undeveloped, which is also going to take time, effort, and money to develop.
But they've got to then put that infrastructure in to relocate the concrete plant.
And are they going to be giving that land away? Or are they going to sell it back to them?
Well, this may be part of the deal with, is it Craig Young?
I'm not 100% sure. I think he owns the plant. I don't know if he owned the land or not. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, but there's also something else you guys might not be thinking of. Remediation of that land where the concrete plant is, because there are toxic chemicals that go into concrete that if it seeps in there and they want to develop it,
for residential, maybe it residential? When are we being developers of residential property as a town council? Or this is classic. This should be private investment. We should not be in the public domain dealing with this. You want an entrepreneur coming in, buying the property, developing the property, and then reaping the rewards from the property. As soon as you put any government hand on anything that involves profit, it goes down the toilet, too many hands are in the pie, and the taxpayer is being ripped off and his pants have been pulled down.
Yep.
What is going on here? Why was this deal done behind closed doors? I know there's certain deals have to be done behind closed doors when you're talking about property purchases, and this sort of thing, because the land then can get jacked up because the county's buying it, or the town council's buying it. We'll jack another $50,000 an acre on it. I understand all of this, but this is all closed door shit on something that should never be taking place in the first place. You are not property speculators. Who the hell do you think you are with taxpayer money? You've screwed this up how many times before, and you're going to expect us to support you and think that this is a great idea? You've got to be off your damn minds. I'm trying to keep the language down, but I'm telling you, I'm getting close.
I don't blame you. Let's just look at it from the basic simpleton point of view. So $5 million at $70,000 an acre, which encompasses the land and the concrete facility.
Well, that would be 60 acres, so that may change that.
That's at like 60 or 65 acres, I think.
Okay, so you're looking...
So, yeah, $70,000. The Summit View Park, as much of a cluster as that was $35,000 an acre. So this is double that. Now let's talk about...
On land that was 40 acres, it was purchased 4 years ago, less than 4 years ago, for $600,000.
Yeah.
Something doesn't add up.
Now, I know Joe Biden has screwed this country into the ground, but inflation hasn't gotten that bad, I wouldn't expect. And on top of that, let's also look at the fact that you're going to have to clear the land. You're going to have to grade the land. As Nick said, you're going to have to look at the chemicals that have been...
The grading is actually significant when you look at the backside of... what's going on, the holes and the dips and the contours and the topography behind Taco Bell, which is where we're talking about, that loops around the back. And I'm sure they're aware of this, but VDOT access is going to be a major problem for doing a residential property development there. So VDOT's going to be coming in, and the cost of doing that, as we well know, is significant, in the millions. So this project, even though is being said, oh, we've bought it for 5 or 6 million, whatever the damn figure is going to end up being closer to 7 or 8 million.
Probably higher than that. Probably closer to 9 or 10.
Well, exactly. But we're on the hook for it because the taxpayer, once they've got their hand in the cookie jar, man, your pants are down. You can't do nothing.
Here's what's going to happen. They'll get a company. So let's say Riddle Incorporated. And they're a big, computer chip manufacturer. All at once, to get them here, we'll give you all these tax breaks. So they'll tell everybody, they're coming in and they're bringing, $100 million a year in taxes. But what they're not telling anybody is the kickback that they're getting off their taxes. All the different tax breaks that they're going to get. It's not going to equal $100 million. It might be $1 million by the time everything is said and
with
done.
all the breaks. Well, but it's worse than that because this isn't a commercial development from what rumours we hear, because everything's behind a closed damn door, is that this is a residential potential development further down the road. So now, when you're throwing these sort of numbers around, right, thank you Town Council for just dropping 6 million at a minimum, and then you're looking to do low-cost residential. Well, I'd love to know your numbers. How the hell can it be? How the hell can it be low cost when at the end of the day it could be upwards of 8 to 10 million just to do this 40 or to 60 acres of development?
It's more than that. If you think about your utilities coming in, because you guys have basically city water here, right? Yeah. It's not like where we are, where it's all wells. So you got to pipe that all in. So that means you got to come off the main, you got to break up the streets, you got to come into where you're going to have the development. So they have to have a plan for that development. They have to know where the buildings are going to be, whether it's a store, a residential housing unit. They have to bring in the power, whether it's going to be off a power pole or maybe they're smart and they put it underground just because that's
They're
better.
not known for being smart. They're known for being crooked, but they're not known for being smart.
I'm playing devil's advocate with
I know
that
you
one.
are.
But when you think about the cost of just bringing those utilities in, 8 and 10 million, that's a low ball contract.
It really is.
I mean, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars.
Well, we don't know
just
what
to
the
get
cost.
All that.
We don't know what the cost is as well to relocate the concrete company and its infrastructure, including buildings and all that. So it's the tip of the iceberg once again. The can of worms, when you open it, we've got no idea. So it becomes a bottomless pit with some administrator, who the hell the EDA are. I've got something on the EDA I'd like to discuss in a minute.
Oh, we will. We'll get to y'all.
But I want to know, how are we stopping you dipping your hands in taxpayer dollars? This could. We don't know where this check is going to end.
Here's what I'm curious about. Out of the people from the EDA, how many have their hands in companies? So whether it's a contractor that does framing or masonry, concrete.
Who's putting the bids in? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Who is the realtor behind this deal? I'm wondering if they're related to anyone on Town Council or EDA, because we know full well up at the Summit, whatever park, that the realtor was related to someone. I dare you to deny it.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit and let's ask ourselves a serious question. How far back does this go? How far back has the planning for this going? Because a $5 million deal isn't going to be something that's perpetrated overnight.
No,
it's not something that's going to be perpetrated in 3 to 4 months, which is how long has this current administration been in since November? Or no, when were they sworn in? I guess January, maybe.
Let's look at the EDA for just 1 second, because that will push the timing further back. I would be very interested to know when the meeting was convened, and it was a special meeting behind closed doors with our unelected body of EDA officials, for which the potential president coming up was going to be Amy Worley. Now, this private meeting behind closed doors of unelected officials was held, and Amy Worley was dismissed and removed. that then allowed Adam Lynch into this position as president of the EDA. We need to ask some questions about that. And whilst we're messing around with questions about the EDA, I just want to go back on this because this one really chaps my ass. Is why is Steve Angle still walking into the Harvester and doing his presentations and getting free tickets?
Well,
got some questions, folks.
It's a good old boy.
What is going on here? If someone ain't this does not pass a sniff test. You know, not even close. No, and if someone doesn't do something about this needs to go. I'll leave this somewhere else. I'm not going to mention it.
Here's a damn Yankee reference for you. Tammany Hall. Have you ever heard of that?
It rings a bell.
So, Tammany Hall was... How do I put this? Without being bad. Trying to
just be,
like
bad.
Be bad.
Just
That's
be
what
bad.
we do.
Okay, they were absolutely fucking corrupt.
Oh, well, there we go.
So you came off of give you an idea of what they were doing. You came off of Ellis Island. They said, if you become a Democrat, you will get A, B, C, and D. So basically, one hand washes the other. No. It's literally, I'm going to give you a job and a house, and I'll pay you rent, the whole 9 yards, and you're just going to vote Democrat. And it got so bad that there wasn't a thing you can do in the early 1900s in New York City that they didn't have their fingers in the pie. And that's why I'm saying, who's putting in the bids for the contracts?
Follow money.
And what you were saying, this can't be something new. Probably isn't. But the people who were on the EDA before, who's to say they didn't start this project? They have, Nick's Construction, to say, look, when the time comes, I'm the one you're going to call. I'm the bid you're going to get. Whatever my bid is, you're going to just go, okay, it was the best bid we got for what we need. Who's to say that's not actually happening? Because that's what's happened in the past. And so many people are so blind to this. They're always in their devices. They're not paying attention. I mean, about all that.
We're talking about the same Democratic Party that supported slavery and also voted against civil rights, correct? The same Democrat Party. Okay,
yes, it's the same
just
party.
making sure it hadn't, the same Democrat Party that put Japanese Americans in internment camps.
Yes.
But hey, look, the Democrat Party and the Republicans, they switched about 5 or 6 times. They conveniently switched. And I'm not even a Republican, so don't even get I'm not a Republican at all. I'm a gold-blooded libertarian. I'm an anarchist. I don't like either party.
Well, Michael Malice anarchist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I cannot believe you just name dropped that.
There you go. We've got educated guests on this show.
Well, if you know anarchists, you know who Spike Cohen is.
Yes.
He's
Spike
coming
Cohen's
here.
He's coming.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that slack jaw just drop?
That look.
Michael
Spike's
Cohen
coming.
is coming on this show.
Yeah.
How the hell are you getting him here? How did you? You know what? That's a conversation for after this.
And I want these people in this town to know this because Spike Cohen is a thorn in authority's ass.
Oh yes.
And I've told Simon time I can follow him on social media and look when he goes and he gets up in the ATF, when he gets in the DEA, thousands and thousands and thousands of people show up. They comment. Right now, he's on a rampage about a sheriff in West Virginia. You saw that, yes. His daughter gets in an accident with a DUI. And the sheriff pretty much covers it up, and the daughter's like, I didn't get in trouble because my dad... Spike, just something as minuscule as that. As minuscule as that.
Oh, he has no mercy.
No, not at all.
I have to give you... Michael Malice just put out a book, White Pill. You have it? Yes, you have to read that.
The Anarchist Handbook.
Yep, you have to read that.
Okay, so...
Thank you, Simon, for getting another educated guest on this show.
I just have a request. I just want to sit in the corner quietly, drinking out of my horn.
You're welcome.
You're good. You can come up there. We're gonna be recording the show up at Simon's. I would take it. I would take it.
Yeah.
I would take it. So yes. So I'm not on either side of the political aisle. So I don't even know we were going with that conversation. I got excited about Spike coming on here.
It was pretty cool. Well, I think the only reason, or one of the big reasons that he accepted we didn't. Did we put the invitation out there, or did he accepted it because he's never had anything quite so redneck and hillbilly, and he just thought, man, I've got to check this out.
You look at me. You have rednecks all over the place. It just kind of depends on
Lots of hillbillies too.
Yeah.
Very different.
Upstate New York is no different than the Blue Ridge.
Absolutely no different.
I'm not on either side of the aisle. You know what I mean? I'm not. I'm a hardcore libertarian by principle, by political affiliation. I will say a libertarian. I'm a card-carrying member, and I voted. I mean, Spike. I voted for him. He was a 2020 vice presidential candidate, and he's a front runner for 2024. If he wants it, he could probably get it. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm an anarchist. And when it comes to all this noise, I just, the way I look at it is, a lot of people are going to say, well, we need this kind of thing coming to town. We need that. We need to go. No, you don't. I know a ton of people out here are screaming and crying. We need more of this. We need more of that. But you know what? If the economy doesn't provide that, then it's not going to happen. And I'm fine with that. I would love to see a lot of stuff come to this town. But if the market is not there, then it's not there right now. It's not your job to go purchase stuff and hope it happens. So you know what? I'm
this scheme.
I don't think they purchased it with the hope that something's happening. They purchased it with the knowledge that something was going to happen.
Well,
but they're going to make it look like it's something that happened.
No, I don't believe that. I believe in 5 years that property's still going to be sitting there vacant. Because if nobody else has been paying attention, 2 major banks just failed in this country. The economy is going down a damn drain. Who in the hell's... We're in a recession.
There's 6 million...
It was actually 3 banks.
Yeah,
there you go.
2 of the banks, oddly enough, were crypto banks. So go figure on that one.
All right, so let's think about this a second. So this little scheme about property, it's not property development. What was my phrase I used? Property
speculation.
Speculation. It's property speculation. So we know that this little scheme was well in advance of the elections. I'm going to hazard a guess that Holland, Perdue, and Ben Mullins were aware of what was going on prior to this election. And now that they have gained their positions at Town Council. So we know that something was stirring well before.
Well, this is
Town
our
Council
speculation.
election.
If they want to speculate,
absolutely.
This is our speculation.
This is our speculation.
This is our speculation.
So it goes a little bit deeper than this because there's a lot of money at stake when you're talking in the millions, right? And a lot of shady shit goes on when you're talking in the millions. I'm concerned about the EDA's involvement in this because this Lynch character miraculously manages to get himself appointed behind a closed door in a position of presidency. Where is the money? Where's it going? Where is the EDA in this scheme? Because they are up to their neck in it. So, Adam Lynch, you've got some questions to answer. Holland Perdue, you better declare what the hell's going on here, because from what I'm sniffing, it ain't right, and we'll take this somewhere else, because we've had enough of your shenanigans, which is how local council and various elements of Franklin County seem to operate. We've got questions, and you need to answer them because this is not acceptable. This is a done deal, right? This isn't something that we can prevent. This is something that's been done. It's just like, well, here's our announcement. We've bought the property. We spent $6 million of your taxpayer money, and we haven't got a fucking clue as to what we're going to do with that property. Oh, really? Oh, really?
I'll be honest. I'm going to disagree with Billy on this point. I think they have a plan, but they're just gonna.
Well, when it's $6 million at stake and it's being distributed, it doesn't matter.
$6 million, when you think of it in the grand scheme of things, nowadays, not a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot considering it was $600,000 when it was
of somebody else's money.
That's why it doesn't matter to them.
Exactly.
It's somebody else's money. I can, look at...
and I agree with you. I agree with you that it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. But entice a developer to come here and spend that money on that property and develop. Because I tell you what, there are hundreds of thousands of developers out there, and there's hundreds of thousands of investors out there who love nothing more to make a profit. Well, don't you think if those people saw a way to make a profit here in Rocky Mount, they would have already done it?
Look at what happened with Philip. That's what he came here to do. And then all his other brilliant ideas that he wants to, the different development groups that he wants to form, where he has everything there. He wants to have that manufacturing center where he has all the equipment. You come with your ideas, and once you get, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
But they throw roadblocks up in his way every step of the way. Every issue they could think of, they tried to do it because they want to control it.
Well, and I agree with you that they probably do have a plan. Now, I don't know if the plan is sophisticated, and I don't know if the plan has anything to do with development. But I think somewhere down the line, that plan involves somebody making money that shouldn't be making money.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, like you're making money on top of what you're supposed to be making, because we all know the case.
Well, no, if there's a plan, you better declare it right now. Because if you haven't got one, you are now not property developers.
Yes.
If you ain't got a plan, what are you?
Speculators.
You're speculators. You're not allowed to do that.
No.
So what law did you break doing it? And where did the money go? Because this EDA little shell company bullshit, oh yeah, we know what this is.
Yeah, we're not stupid.
So we'll call it out.
You walk around and you pretend like we're stupid, but we're not.
So brace yourself. Hell's coming.
And let's ask some more questions here. Let's think about what about the project development? Yeah. So with the project development here and stuff, let's talk about what this is going to do real quick before we get out of here to property values around here. Because one of the big problems with the harvesters when it came to town and the Cox properties and some of these other places is they paid absorbent, ridiculous amounts of money for that stuff. So now what happens? And everybody else around here sits around on their property expecting to make that kind of money, and it just sits vacant and it never happens. Like property values are going to be screwed into the ground. There's a lot of implications.
Well, who's walking around town at the moment if it's not the property assessment folks saying, oh, we think that you've got, a 30% increase on your property value. This is what's going on, that we are about to get screwed.
And I don't even get how they could figure 30 to 40% in a raise in property values.
You can't do that. You can't do that. And if you think you're going to try, guess what?
Well, if you're up by the lake, sure, yeah, that's.
You still can't put a 30% increase on your property tax. I don't know how you do that in a market that, quite frankly, has been tanking for years, and then to speculate with some company in California, which is where these clowns come from, to do their what is the website that gets involved in property assessments. Zillow. So they come in and we think that because you've got the acreage that square footage and blah blah blah. So some third party from God knows where are making these assessments that we apply randomly, and I'm just like, no, you're not going to do that. We chose this part of Virginia and Franklin County for a number of reasons, and one of the primary reasons is the cost of living is low. Right? We know the standards are lower, but we're prepared to accept that. Right? So we're not looking to say, oh, right, so I want garbage pickup twice a week. I want, we need reclaiming. So now you've got to have 3 or 4 bins outside. You've got to have, high-speed internet throughout so that we can charge all these extra costs. No. Get your hands out of the public cookie jar and just piss off. That's what I'm saying. Get your hands out of our cookie jar and take it somewhere else. Oh, but in Northern Virginia, I don't give a toss about Northern Virginia. Cool, there was restraint. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
After Billy's rant, I'm surprised I could keep a lid on it. But, you can't. You're not going to do this. You're not elected to do this. We're not going to allow you to do it. And what you're doing now with this little latest scam,
elected.
Well, the EDA is an unelected body, so I want to know what the hell you're about. I want to know what the hell you're about. You're a bunch of thieves and crooks.
Apparently, that EDA is the one who made this whole purchase or whatever with the approval of the town council. But who sets the tone for the EDA? They're not elected, so they're appointed. So you're going to sit there and tell me, oh, well, we're going to get around this by saying it was EDA, not the town council.
Well, that's how Amy Worley was dismissed.
They're appointed. So who appoints them and why and how? And what experience do they have with property development? What experience do our town council members and mayor have with property development?
An actual property developer has clients, and they go, look, I got this space.
He's got margins to deal with.
It's in a small town atmosphere. You shift one of your production facilities or one of your offices here. It's, you're
dealing with margins and accountability. There is no accountability with public coffers. And you've got to be kidding. Oh, but you can re-elect him every 4 years. Oh, kiss my ass.
Well, I know there are manufacturing places, there are businesses that have wanted to come here and do business in Franklin County, but decided instead to go down to Pennsylvania County or Henry County because they don't want to have to deal with the nonsense of our
well, they're no better in any other county
at
the end of the day. But corruption is rife.
They probably work with them more than they
would
here.
Exactly. Here in Franklin County, for whatever reason, it's this good old boy system to where somebody like Philip Bain or Brian Hochstein, who's both been on this show, or somebody like them to come in from out of town and they want to develop or something, well, they just give them the cold shoulder because they're not from here.
Well, they're not paying their election dollars for re-election.
Clearly. And you know what? People like it, I don't really care where you come from. If you want to come into this town and invest money and you want to make this town better, why?
We should be facilitating this.
Why is it somebody like Brian or Philip coming to this town and want to spend money and tell you they want to spend money and they choose this place and you do nothing but screw them into the ground time and time and time again? But now you turn around and you can't find somebody to develop this land, but you want to sit here and speculate that you can find somebody? Why would anybody want to come to this town when all y'all do is screw them into the ground because they're not from here? You know what? I don't.
Well, but you're not facilitating.
Not facilitating in the least. But
and that's your damn job.
But then turn around and say, well, we're going to spend $5 million on a property and hope that somebody comes and buys it. Nick, your thoughts? Because I know you just got dragged into this.
You know what? No, I agree with Simon. The bigger thing is, if you want transparency, put everything out there. Put it on the table. Show people that there's no shenanigans going on.
Public meetings, engagement. And there's absolutely none.
Well, they have these things. They have these town halls or whatever.
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
They want input, and they don't take the input and do anything with it.
Fill in a survey.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. It's appeasement.
Because then they could say, well, like you're saying, if we listened to you for your 3 minutes at a meeting, and we did something with it. What the hell did you do with it?
They did nothing.
But going back to this. I agree with Simon. You follow the money, and you'll find out where it's going. And
we'll get
call it the New Yorker in me, but I will guarantee you that there is somebody somewhere connected to this that's connected to somebody in the EDA who's connected to the town council, board of supervisors. It may not be hand in hand with that person.
It's shady as hell, and we know it.
There's a connection, and you just got to connect the dots. Then.
Yep. And that's the problem. Try and do that. So we need inside people who have witnessed this. We need some whistleblowers to approach us privately, if you wish. In fact, I'd recommend privately because I know there's intimidation out there. I'm not scared by it. Billy isn't scared by it. Good luck if you want to intimidate Nick. In fact, I almost double dare you. So yeah, we need whistleblowers from council that can clearly see this for the scam that it is.
We need more because. Go ahead, finish it.
No, that's where I'm at. If you've got something to say, approach us privately. However you wish to do that, we are always available. We're kicking around on various platforms. Let it be known because. This is how we'll crack this nut. I mean, us here just ranting and raving, they're just going to look at it and go, oh, well, they'll disappear within a month. No, we won't.
We're not this time. No. I know everybody in this county, yes, they want to scream, we need economic development, we need it. Well, if the market calls for it, we'll get it. Otherwise, the government has no business.
We're not talking about speculation. I'm not asking you to gamble with taxpayer dollars.
No.
That's not your mandate.
No.
I did not give you permission to do that.
Your job as the government is to protect citizens and to facilitate, and that is it. You're not in the business of opening up music venues. You're not in the business of buying up industrial parks. You're not in the business of buying up land to figure out what you might do with it, because that land's probably going to sit there for 5 or 6 years and nothing's going to happen to it. You are not in the right here. And I'm sick and tired of citizens in this town having to sit there and scrape and fight and claw just to be able to feed their families every single day. And they don't have time to deal with your nonsense.
That's what they count on, is the simple fact that, think about
Yep.
this real quick, the way we grew up. You're not that much younger than the two of us. Most of the houses we grew up in,
Not as good looking, though.
Mom was home, Dad went to work,
Yep.
kids went and called for each other and played, and everybody was informed. Now, that's not the case.
No, mom's at work, dad's at work, and your kid is at a government indoctrination camp getting fed CRT and gender queer and all this stupid shit
and then
out there.
Here's the thing that makes it worse. We had to grow up learning how to think, because I know where Simon grew up, where I grew up, as we were talking earlier, and where you grew up, everybody knows who you are. You had to be smarter, so you had to learn. They don't have to do that now, and that's what they're counting on. People are too distracted. People have too much work, whether it's Chris between working at Homestead and doing Foggy Ridge, or you driving the truck and doing this.
This is an expose. This is our opportunity to deliver the expose that needs to be put out there. We do have the followers,
and people have to wake up. They have to share it with other people.
Let's engage these folks. But this comes from the inside, so we're asking for whistleblowers on this.
Come to us. We're not going to put your name out there.
Absolutely not,
because there's a lot of information we always get. We've never once revealed any of our sources because we trust them and they trust us, and that's just as simple as it is. So, for everybody out there, we certainly appreciate your time. I apologize for the cursing. I do. For this episode, I do.
Well, this has to be put out, not as a Patreon. It has to go out, and it needs to go out as soon as we can get it out, because people need to be pissed off about this.
The Baconator?
The Baconator, man.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our amended
addendum.
We have amended. We recorded a show last Thursday, and rightfully so, we had our disagreements and our issues with a recent land purchase that has been made by the town. Now, proposed. Now, we're going to release a previous episode, but we're also going to walk a few things back here, and that's kind of why we're here, to make this amended section of the show. The previous the rant, we were joined by Nick Ferrari, who is part of the Stay Local Franklin County page and group and whatever. We just kind of brought him around for his secondhand account, because we like to bounce ideas off people's heads. So in this one, we're being joined by one of our favorites, and Simon,
the one and only.
Been doing the show for almost 2 years now.
The stunningly handsome.
Been doing it with you for quite some time now, and I gotta say, when it comes to guest co-hosts, there are a handful up there at the top. I mean,
the suave.
At the end of the day, I do like,
and sophisticated.
I like Josh Grice being on as a guest co-host. I know he is a horrible musician, and
he's probably over there peddling his CDs for what, 10 cents?
No, he's just handing them away.
Oh,
yeah. He isn't expecting him. Just please take it.
Skeet practice.
Yeah, it's pretty sad he couldn't come join you on that last episode. I mean, music, that's what he claims to be. I mean,
are you two doubling up on poor Josh, my good friend?
Well,
you are. You are dirtbag.
Listen, when I listen to the podcast, and every chance I hear Billy just throw a jab in there, I have to laugh. Because I can only imagine Josh listening to these things, and he's like, "You butto."
He listens to every single episode, and I know how, because this is the last message I have in my phone from him. It says, "Tell Simon I don't really think he's CIA ... anymore." S talking a-hole.
I'm still going to love you, Josh.
I do appreciate everything he is. And when I started the show, I just reached out to him and said, "Man, I want to use your music for the show. Can I do it?" He just said yes. And that was the end of the day. Like, hopefully at the end of the day, I really pray and hope that his band somehow makes it platinum and they're making millions of dollars and he's living a happy life. And I hope I'm somehow a part of it by playing his shitty music to end and begin every single show we do, essentially. And if it doesn't happen at the end of the day, I still want to promote him because maybe, his price for a show goes up a couple $100 every time he manages to show up. And it's going to put more food on his kid's table, because that's who I care about, is his kid and his wife, probably much more than he does.
Let's get back to this handful of co-hosts. I want to hear where that was going.
I just want to say, I mean, when you put it up there, you got your Amos Dentons of the world and you got your Christ Montgomerys of the world. I mean, Chris has become one of, I love the shows that
our
we have
go-to
Chris
guys.
on. I do, and honestly, the numbers don't lie. Though. I mean, Chris, the shows he has all appeared on are probably all in the top 10 or 15 of the shows we've ever done. Like, I don't think Chris has been on a show that hasn't reached our top 15.
Billy, I believe you probably ought to quit spitting bullshit. That's somebody in this room trying to not get beer over.
Hey, this house is pretty old. There might be spirits in this room. We need to get Don Johnson and our buddies over here from Beyond the Dark Paranormal. I want them to come over here. Big shout out to them too, because they are huge, supporters of this show. Like Don and his wife.
Yeah, they are. They were great on that Christmas show.
They were awesome on the Christmas show, and they were a fun time on this show. And I want to get them over here again when my sound is a little bit better, because that show kind of came through bad. But they're such a good time, and they don't charge a dime. So to me, I look at that and I say, man, they're legit and they really believe in what they're doing. And they have never, they don't charge anybody to come do their ghost hunting or whatever. And the first thing they try and do is prove them wrong. They're like, oh, no, this isn't a ghost. This is just, creeks in the border, because they don't want to waste their time either. So, and the stories. And when this show's over with, I'll play y'all some of the footage that Don sent me, and you can hear somebody like on one of his recordings say, go to the attic. I mean, it'll make the hair on your neck stand up. It really, so love him guys to death. You know what I mean? I love, so just.
I've got my mom and dad's got a neighbor, and the gentleman who put that house in, he's passed on, or at least I think he is, but he hated dogs because they would chase his cats.
Can you just pronounce that one more time?
Dogs.
Okay, I'm just figuring out how you spell that. But that's a tricky one.
D-O-double-G. But, and there's some history there that I probably shouldn't share. But anyway, the couple that live in it now, well, so our dog was out of a litter, and it was 5, and the neighbor that lived at the top of the mountain had 2 of them, and my dad had 2 of them, and then I don't know what happened to the other ones, but anyway, they were brothers. One lived at the top, one lived about halfway down. Well, it was about 6 months in between, but one of the bigger ones out of the litter come up with his leg shot off. About 6 months later, the one that my dad had come up with his leg shot off. And the only thing, I was talking to my dad about the other night, and he's like, I don't ever remember telling you that he shot the dogs. And I was like, yeah, you told me, because they chased his cats. Well, the couple that live in that house now, it's crazy. They have a dog. And
don't say with both legs cut or shot off, whatever you say.
No, they have a dog, and this dog is the most friendliest dog that you could ever be around. But whenever there's a piece of mail that shows up with the previous owner's name on it, this dog goes freaking berserk.
Wow. Crazy.
And their daughter, when she was a little girl, she would be in the living room with a ball and glove and be tossing the ball and screaming, "Why don't you catch the ball?"
Whoa.
Just keep that in mind, Don. Keep that in mind while you listen to this show. And I appreciate Don and Kelly so much. I mean,
I talked to him. I talked to him about it, and I said, next time Don and Kelly come up, I said, is it okay if I bring them up here? And she was like, please. Every time a piece of mail shows up with his name on it, something spook goes on in the house. She was telling me one time it had been like 3 years, and something showed, and the piece of mail showed up with his name on it, and like their daughter just started acting really funny again, and like they could hear this scratching noise. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't believe in it. I talked to Don and Kelly, and I'm starting to kind of lean towards, I believe in some of that stuff. And she's sitting here telling me all this stuff, and like she's like describing the scratching noise, the sound. And she's like, we let Dixie in the house, and Dixie goes right back to the closet, and she's just barking her head off. And
there's something to it. Yeah, watch out.
Yeah.
Well, back to what I was trying to get at is just having Chris on the show. I think number one implies that this is going to be one hell of a show that is downloaded by, because his voice has the warmth. His voice has the warmth of Mr. Rogers.
It's that,
you know what I mean?
It's that Montgomery mojo.
It is. Whatever the case may be. But, Simon, we recorded this show last Thursday as a response, and we're going to release that show previous to this part of the show, and then now we're going to kind of not walk back, but
we got some data to address.
We have, and why do we have that data to address? Because let's give credit where credit is due.
You're quite right.
We were asking, and as we mentioned this on Facebook, we were asked by town officials to not release it before they could sit down and talk with us, and that's exactly what they did. They sat down and they talked with us, and we went over a few things, and of course we corrected some numbers on it. We corrected some things that we might have misinterpreted. At the end of the day, from the first show, I'm still not changing my purview on the thing, because I come from a libertarian mindset, and my libertarian mindset is that the government shouldn't be involved in anything, and I still stand by that. I think that private entity should come through, and if that property was so well desired, then a private person should come through here and develop it.
And I would stand by that too. I think along with and these were minor details that we always initially said were subject to verification. We still came out of that conversation this evening with really no resolution to the property has been overpaid for. Now, there's some minor details about how the deal with relocating the concrete plant goes. So there's, and again, that's easy to figure out.
But was that not started like?
Well, this was started many years ago.
Was that? No, the relocation of the plant, because I've been through there a couple times, and I'm pretty sure last summer, late summer, that there was some construction going on.
Well, that may have been attempted maintenance.
Today, as I went to Kroger to buy a couple of things for the family, whatever, nanas and things to make the little one happy, and I kind of just took that little right turn there behind the Taco Bell and went down as far as I could go to kind of give it a look, and I swear I saw about 7 to 8 solar panels down there what my eye could catch. I don't know what the significance of that is, or why those solar panels are there. And I could be wrong that they are solar. This is kind of what they look like to me. And my daughter's in the back. Said, Daddy, what are we doing? This ain't Kroger. What are we looking? I said, I just want to drive through here, baby. I just want to look at it. And I kind of like just gave the land a look for myself, and I thought it was just somebody from my commonsensical point of view. I was like, man, this is going to be some hard land to develop into something, and we compare this what potentially could happen here to the Delville Town Center. And I don't know if any of you have been to the Delville Town Center, but I mean it's elegant. It's nice. It's got like
it works out.
Single family houses.
It works out very well.
Out, but that also seems to be land that is not quite as
you've got
not
a
quite as in
500
need of upkeep. Of a facelift.
The problem. Go on.
Well, before we dove really deep into this, I know we, as an addendum. I'm sorry, I drank a few, and I'm going to tell you why I drank a few, because before we dive deep into this, before it escapes Simon's purview, I want to talk about the fact that number one, yes, thank those town officials for showing up today. But where we showed up today, I want to give this place a complete and total shout out before we even start, because I don't want people to get too far into this before they understand the significance of this establishment that we had this meeting at today. I want to give them a huge shout out for their courtesy. And Simon once again forgot to put his phone on mute. That's the second time in about 30 episodes.
It's so unprofessional.
I should forgive it.
So
and
unprofessional.
I will. But where we met at today, like it was a very aesthetically pleasing set, and I just want to paint the picture for everybody. And Simon,
it's right by the courthouse.
It's called the Old Town Social House, which I think was an appropriate setting. It was a public setting. But what an elegant place to go, not just to sit down and maybe have it out with town officials when you're talking about but just to go in there and talk about what you and your family are up to. Some things that
it's just very elegant.
Chris,
Simon, did it remind you of your hometown?
I asked him
clubhouse
multiple times.
It had a feel to it of elegance, and it had a certain panache.
So, flip side of that, you're saying that most of the establishments you go in around here doesn't have that panache or that elegance to it?
Got to be a little bit careful about how I respond to that, Chris, but thanks for putting me on the spot.
That's what I mean.
Did I fall into a trap? But and the other part is, as soon as
it's different. It is different, and it should be. It should be like
it's absolutely spectacular.
Billy, from the pictures that you sent me of it, my first thought was
you're way out of place. So am I. Me and you are both way out of place at that place.
Well, no,
but we can dress up and make it seem like.
Oh yeah, boy! I walk in there with a 5-gallon cowboy hat on, look like Caleb Floor. They probably.
Oh no, I've seen what he wears, and I know he's listening.
But the first thought I had was, man, they done a really good job with all that Goodwill furniture.
Oh my! You have got to be kidding me!
It's just the antiques. You know what I mean? It's got that antique look to it.
It's sophisticated.
I know it is. I know it is.
Elegant.
Simon,
look,
call him a slack job.
I mean,
I appreciate that. I really
clearly
do.
Not.
I'm just saying. Like when I see a cloth white chair that's sitting on wood leggings, I'm either thinking, "Oh shit, I'm in the lawyer's office."
And take your dirty dungarees off.
That's the point. You're supposed to be in there conversing with lawyer types. That's
dear.
why we had the meeting there today. Because
I don't think y'all was conversing with lawyer types.
It is an elegant place, and they've got the place has a great history. It is like it's the Sugar Shack, right? So if anybody from bootlegging history can understand, it's a Sugar Shack, and when you go there, they'll kind of give you a brief history of the building, which they've done both times I've been there, and just phenomenal.
Not to mention that's where I took. Well, that's where me and my wife went for birthing classes for our daughter, and we also took her 1-year-old pictures.
Did you know what was in the basement?
No. It used to be. It used to have the humane. I don't know about the Humane Society.
What decade did he say that happened in?
This was in the 1920s.
20s or 30s, yes.
Or 30s.
Is that where they took the inmates to give them a bath?
No. They had
it's the old Sugar Shack.
The old Sugar Shack. They had 3 moonshine running vehicles in there, started up, fired up, loaded, ready to go.
Right beside the courthouse.
Yes. Right by the court. Of course. Doesn't that make perfect sense?
Oh, yeah.
Think about that.
Hiding it in plain
It's
sight.
absolute genius.
Hide it in plain sight.
Genius. So they
or
thought
you
they'd
know
go
who's
up.
got your back.
They were
yeah.
going to go. Apparently, they said, "Well, before we make this long run with all this illegal liquor, we'll go and have a quick cup of coffee." So
Yeah, because
they-
apparently they were British, except for they mixed up coffee with tea. I
with
guess.
tea, and probably at least it was hot. Anyway, bless their hearts. And apparently there was a leak from a gasoline line or something. It caught fire. The floor fell through. I mean, it was, and the liquor exploded, and it was a combustible situation that went sideways. The cars collapsed into the basement, and to this very day, the shells and frames, and there's an engine bulkhead and block in there. They are still there to this day because they fell through the burnt floor into the basement and never got removed on joists that are holding the basement up with loaded whiskey barrels of concrete. It is, I had no
Phenomenal.
idea this was it.
awesome.
Yes, the place. I mean, go there. Look, you go in there, and they've got a minimal selection of beer, a phenomenal wine list. And I don't know nothing about wine. I even told Simon when we walked in today, I said, just order me something fancy for wine. He's like, it ain't a wine kind of day. So I went ahead and went with a beer. But they've got a massive wine list. And you go in there, and you just sit down in a casual, comfortable setting, and you socialize. That's why it's called
Yep.
the Old Town Social House. You're not going in there to a bar expecting to get rowdy. You go in there to sit down and have good conversation.
Yep.
It really is something that I think is.
I love it.
It's something that is I have never seen in.
It's like
anywhere.
it's like an old English pub because
really-
that's what you're there for. You're not there to be drowned out with loud music.
Hold on, let's
or
see the other half of that with
multiple
the soccer hoop.
55-inch TV screens. You know, or the rugby club coming in doing a conga naked. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Not
I mean,
there.
So meeting there, I mean,
Oh, it was a
I
great
think
location.
when you listen to this thing, I didn't get to sit in on the first one, but it was pretty riled up, and I mean, it rightfully so. I mean, you're talking about taxpayer money,
Well, and this, if we come back to that,
and so meeting there,
was appropriate.
it has a kind of a relaxed. I didn't get to sit in the meeting, but looking at the pictures, you get this relaxed feel, and if anybody's got any dignity, you're not going to show your ass in a place that's
Well, one wouldn't think so.
Well, let's.
Well, you wouldn't think so,
Well,
but
you know what?
never-
On one hand, I don't even want to.
We
You know-
still came to the conclusion.
Well,
Okay,
well,
we
you
came
know
to
what,
the
who sh-
conclusion.
you know-
it was overpriced. The
Well-
deal is overpriced. Full stop.
Well,
And
as far as everything else.
it's still not development.
Well, look, he showed up, and
Oh, absolutely.
and he was the
How was
only,
it?
he was one of only two people running for election this last go round that showed up on our show, and it wasn't Philip Bain we met today. So I'm going to give ultimate credit for Holland for showing up today and at least speaking with us and trying to bridge those gaps. Like, I'm not in agreement with anything almost any politician does, but I will show a mad level of respect for any of them that at least comes on this show and puts their name on it, because I know, I don't know if it's going to be, in the previous recording we did, I said, you know what, if you're a man, you can put your name on it. And at least he'll come put his name on it. And he believes that is right for the citizens of Rocky Mountain.
Credit where it's due.
I will give credit where credit is due. On the other hand, I'm going to be on here on my side, and I'm going to criticize where I think needs to be criticized. And I also want people to understand that a lot of the things we said on the previous recording that we're going to release ahead of this, also,
I think we should release them at the same time.
no, we're going to, as part of one episode.
yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
just the first part. This is
Yeah.
part two. I just want people to know we were also criticizing the government as a whole.
Yeah.
We were criticizing the former administration.
Well,
we were criticizing
track
history.
record has something to do with
Track
it.
record, it certainly does.
But I
understand that the current administration has only been here for a few months, so they should not be held accountable for the sins of their father, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a lot of the things we have talked about are not on Holland. It's not on this new council that we have in place with, with 2 or 3 new members. It's not on them. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
so,
we
so
still
let-
didn't.
let's-
We still didn't get any of our questions answered in reference to the EDA and exactly what the EDA
fine, and that's
is.
fine, and I say that's fine because I know they had a meeting to get to tonight as well, and I think if we could have had more time to sit down and talk, maybe we could have come, and hopefully in the future that we can make something like that happen, because at the end of the day, this is new media. This is new media. The Franklin News Post, the
they're not going to
Times,
touch this with the barge pole.
well, they're not going to touch it, and they are dying media because nobody trusts them anymore. People want to talk and listen to people that are mixed up in the community, and I appreciate that recognition. I appreciate them reaching out to us, and and a lot of people are going to form opinions on it, be like, oh, well, they tried to silence y'all. No. I made an agreement, a gentleman's agreement, to hold off on releasing that show last week like I wanted to until they had a chance to speak their piece. And I think that's a sign of respect. So, you know what I mean? Like, look, you can't win the day just constantly being at your wit's end and losing your freaking mind. At some point in time, you got to sit down and you got to have the conversation. So that's what we
they're
did.
seeing,
That's
they're,
what we did. I
they're
wanted to
seeing
have
one
the
side of an
conversation.
argument.
Yeah, it's okay to lose a battle
Just don't lose the war.
to back up and get your wits together so you can win the war.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. And to that extent, that's what happened. But with the fundamental disagreement stands that we've got to look at it as being a $5 million number. We've got to look at it as the concrete plant has certain benefits, but they are not perhaps as full as we're hearing. But I think the contingencies that the town has on this contract, passing certain tests with regards to the ground, the soil, the watershed, the whatever it may be, and access and all that
But who's paying for
finite
that?
stuff. Well, but that is their contingency to back out of.
I know, but still, who's paying for it?
It will ultimately be the taxpayer. Of course it will. Even the finance deal, as part of how that payment works, is a finance deal that the taxpayers will ultimately be responsible for. So, which is why we're vehemently against the property speculation. I think they have applied an element of due diligence here with regards to what these contingencies might or might not be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to respect that, but still, this should have reached the outskirts of the county when they were talking about having a vote on this and buying it.
Well, nothing's approved yet. It's not fully
I
approved.
know.
And that's
but-
part of our walk back. That's part of us coming
Yeah.
back on and doing a part 2 of this show. Is I know
It's not
part
a done
one,
deal.
We talked about it,
but it
is
was
not.
voted.
There's own
It
contingencies.
passed unanimously to push forward and see where it leads. Right.
And
And that's the problem.
Yeah, and that is a problem too.
And that's the
Not
problem
one
with speculation.
person
So in an
yes.
economy, when you buy a 1987 tractor and you pay the same amount of money for that tractor in 2022 as it was worth off a showroom floor because of inflation, when you're paying $4 and almost $5 gas and diesel fuel, AEP's done come out and raised your rates up 25%.
Well,
When we've got 14 vehicles that are in the EMS and fire that need to be replaced, and this has nothing to do with the county. I mean the town. It's more so the county. And you've got an overpaid for Summit View that's got 2 businesses in it, and they spent $6-7 million.
Now,
before
the third business is supposedly still in the works to come, and that's the tea and barnacle business. You remember the herbal tea or whatever
That's right.
factory? But the last news brief you can find on that company is 2020, and they held up production because of the pandemic But, trusted sources I've spoke with in the town say they still have engineers coming. But I mean, at the same time,
I still don't see. I still can't wrap my mind around.
No, they still should not have been in the business of buying that property and hoping that it works.
I'll give Steve
speculation.
Angle where credit is due. He said that the council is not in the real estate business.
It was even a little bit more directed, and when he was offered this particular piece of land that we're discussing now, Steve Ankle turned the offer down because he said the town council is not into property development or speculation.
Which kind of makes you scratch your head.
And I'd like to know what changed between that status and statement and now.
Harvester.
Well, it's probably a generation.
Well, I'm not worried about. I mean, the harvesters are done.
That's part of it, though. That's part of them being in that
and the
business.
EDA deal is something completely different.
But now you're not
too.
in that business, so
exactly.
You know what I mean? You're in the business at this point in time, but you're not.
Yeah.
But this is, you go back to the beginning of the show when I talked about my favorite guest go. This is why I love Christ Montgomery, and when I say love, I mean that emphatically. Like I hadn't known him forever in a blue moon, but there are certain people in this world you can just look at and say, you know what? I want him beside my side. When it all hits a fan, that's love.
He's the man you're after.
Yes. I mean, he's going to answer and ask the right questions, and he's somebody that we should all respect their opinion.
Speaking of asking the right questions, so I got a message.
In a bottle.
Billy, my wife wants to know what your daughter wants for her birthday. But I got a message a couple weeks ago that they were having the Mountain View Solar Farm meeting.
Right.
This was the second one that was held. Well, guess what time it was? 4 to 6.
That's helpful for attendance.
Yeah, it was all of like 20 people there, and it was at the Pig River Community Center, and. You can hate them, you can love them. I hate them personally. Why should we be investing in solar energy when Germany is miles ahead of us on this crap, and they're ripping their stuff out faster than as fast as they're putting them in over here, and they're going back to coal fire plants. They're going back to wood burning plants. And now they're relying on Russia for their oil.
Well, I'm afraid Biden put a stop to that by taking out Nord Stream 1 and 2, but I don't think I'm supposed to talk about that.
But regardless, so that meeting was from 4 to 6, and I got the message, and the people that asked me to go to it knew that I'm not a big fan of them. And so I get there, the meeting's getting started, and people are asking these questions, and they're dodging these answers left and right. And I'm like, these people, they're not using the right questions. And this lady asked, she said, where does your materials come from? And she's like, well, it's a byproduct of whatever it was, and da-da-da-da. I looked at her and I said, you didn't ask the right question. Watch this. And she looked at me kind of funny, and I spoke up and I said, where's your raw material coming from? And she said, well, it's a byproduct. I said, no.
Raw material?
Raw material, not byproduct material. Where's the raw material coming from? Well, South Africa, I'm not sure where else it comes from, but most of it. And I said, China. And she straightway took another question. Well, I wasn't going to be outdone like that. I wasn't having none.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it before.
And so I asked a few more questions. People asked the questions, and then the answers that they got were just the wrong. They were asking the wrong question.
Yeah.
And so I would adjust the question that they were asking, and ask that. And every answer we got back was a BS answer. And
well,
so
they love using language. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they use very precise language.
And
And
so-
it's called plausible deniability.
so somebody ended up asking, this is cattle country. We don't have a lot of sheep and goats and stuff around here. This is cattle country. Why won't you spend the extra money, raise the panels up, because we know you can do it. Raise the panels up and let us run cows on it. And her answer, I kind of blacked out when she answered, but it was something to the tune of, well, we're only going to do sheep ones around here, and that's just how it's going to be. And so it was getting right at that 6 o'clock mark, and there was a couple people sitting behind me, and this lady was chit-chatting, and she said, well, I'm going to ask that question. I spun around. I said, I'll take care of that question. And she said, okay. So she called on me, and dude, I'd have had enough. And I told her, I said, look, I said, we may be hicks and hillbillies down here. I said, but we ain't dumb. I've sat here and listened to this whole thing, and I've asked you questions, and y'all have given us bullshit answers, and y'all have beat around the bush. I said, and the comment that you made about what runs off of these panels is cleaner than the shit that runs off the fields from the cows and other animals. I said we've been breathing and drinking and eating shit since we were kids, and it ain't killed us yet. I said, so as a farmer, I don't appreciate that. And I went on about another 2-minute rant, and she quit taking questions after that.
Funny that.
But you have to, and the other thing that ticked me off was from 4 to 6. Well, most people don't get off till 5. They live at least 30 minutes from their work. They got to go home. Most of them's going to want to shower and grab a bite to eat before they come to the meeting. So you're looking at 5:30 at the max. I mean, at the minimum, 6 o'clock. Now, I will give them credit for putting on another meeting for that, and they're planning on doing another one. So this will be 3.
Didn't they use the excuse that they didn't even have to put this meeting on?
Yeah.
So why would they now, having had a bad experience and basically cut you short?
They're going to get me at the next meeting, too.
Oh, well, I mean, are they obliged to do it? Because they may not.
I don't know, but they're gonna have their hands full. I can promise you that.
Right on.
I mean, no, and the comment was, the landowner spun around and said, "Well, it ain't even your property." And didn't I? And I looked at her and I said, "Well, didn't I tell you that I'm a strong believer in property rights? You should be able to do what you want to on your own property, but this is going to affect our community."
Yep. When it affects third party,
this is going to affect everybody in our community.
Yeah.
Because whether you believe it or not,
yeah, one could be in conjunction with the other.
These solar panels can end up costing us money, and more than likely will.
I don't doubt it. There have been so many failed attempts at this business model.
And this company's
and
4
this
years
industry.
old, and they're already involved in a loss. Well, I don't. She said the question was asked, are you tied up in a lawsuit or anything like that? And she said, well, we are in the court right now, but it was with one of their hired contractors.
Right. But even so, I mean, there's been enough failed.
But the other thing I want people to know is, from what I understand, and I got this from a pretty high up guy in the county, that as of right now, AEP still hasn't struck a deal with them to buy the energy from them.
Oops, cart before the horse there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how that's supposed to
Dominion
work.
has.
It's not supposed to work that way.
It sounds a lot like this property.
It to a certain extent it does. There is an element of keeping a closed door contract agreement in a closed door for scalping and
but it shouldn't
reasons.
be closed door when you're talking about spending $5 million of taxpayer money.
But the taxpayer money element is the issue, and had it been for $3.5 million,
that would be a little easier to swallow.
It's an easier pill to swallow because it is at market price. So this is an inflated market price, and that's one issue that we won't back down from.
As we are facing down a depression.
Yeah.
I mean, how many major banks have collapsed in the past few weeks? You know, I went and met with my accountant today, and he gave me a little bit of hope. He said it's going to be all right for the people that work here in the near future. But, you know, for those who don't work, there's going to be trouble. But I think that means trouble for the people that do work because crime rates are going to skyrocket. People are going to be stealing more and more.
Well, there's been 5 break-ins in Hardy.
How does it correct itself? You know what I mean? Like we are facing down with depression, and not in a recession you don't grow. There's no growth. Not to mention a depression. So, you know, one of my big gripes is how do you plan on this development working in a depression when
they've had 20 years to do it,
and it never happened. When
with
you do it,
zero interest rates,
exactly,
and it hasn't happened. That's a very valid point.
Exactly. Why is it? And I'm all about. You know, everybody wants to say, "Well, I hope." You know, I think it's great. You know, not everybody. A few people out there have commented. You know, well, I think it's great for the town, and I think it's great to. But everybody that has something to say, it's all could'ves and should'ves and would'ves. And look, with taxpayer money, you don't play with those kind of terminologies. You play with either it is a 100% slam dunk, which is almost 0% of the time, or you play loosely and let the market take care of itself. Now, this market should have taken care of itself by now. The fact that it hasn't should tell you something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I can tell you from beef sales. From this previous year to the year before that.
But they're not good, are they?
No. People are holding on to their money. I mean, they ain't
got it.
They're trying to store up for the storm because it's coming, and anybody that has any common sense can see that.
Yep.
And this is what we told them here tonight. You know, this is a message of Simon and, you know, and once again, kudos to them for coming out and at least being diplomatic about it. I have an utmost, I mean, Simon, how often does somebody in those positions come out and actually acknowledge their constituents? It just doesn't happen.
You know what? He did say, I was going to say, he did say the doors were going to be open, and
hey, that's another.
He walked
and
through
I'm
and
giving
met
him
y'all.
100% credit for that.
Yeah.
We just disagree.
Yeah.
We just disagree on policy.
Yeah.
I mean, like perhaps our purview all goes in the same direction. Perhaps we all have the same ultimate end goal, but you know, our way to get there is different. And my way saves the taxpayers a whole lot more than their way.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, maybe we all get there and we're happy.
I would like to see how you can cure that. Is for the administrators in particular to be and have be fiduciaries.
I'll tell you how you cure it. I'll tell you how you cure it right here, right now.
Come on.
And for the hundreds of people that we represent, because you're not alone. The best thing that this administration could do to show the people that they're on the up and up with this project, if they're going to push forward and go through with it, is to lay out their campaign funds and who donated to them.
Is that in public record? I don't know.
Not sure.
Well, our problem
That'll
really
tell you
is
that will tell you whether it's on the up and up.
Well, our problem really is where is the money going, and that you've got to go through the whole course of the transaction.
Well, if you open up your campaign funds and list the people who donated, it'll tell you where the money's going.
That kind of transparency.
Back to transparency.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, that would take care of a lot of this issue.
Well, it would answer a lot of questions.
It would answer a lot of questions because the people that I'm hearing from, they're pretty torqued.
It's a tough deal.
And to them, this seems like under the table. This has been in the works since campaigning to become mayor.
Yeah,
and for seats. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not speculating anything. I'm just saying the people that I've talked to in the last couple of days since this has all come to a head are like, man, this seems really shady. Well, if you want to take care of that shadiness, cut the tree limbs off and let the sun shine on it.
Yeah, I mean that has been our argument throughout. And I with the discussion we had today, it's been very apparent that we have transparency issues with the EDA.
But the EDA doesn't even have the money to buy this property, right?
This is where it gets a little bit into that grey ground, because the transparency with the EDA is not, I think, the transparency that we're looking for and have with the town council. So the EDA, even though it's a very well respected tool for municipalities to,
Well, that's
allegedly,
you
are you
very well
push it?
respected. You're being generous with that terminology. I mean,
It's a very sophisticated way to do it, and when it gets sophisticated,
It's a walk
that means
around,
there's
is
some
what it is.
walkarounds.
they're unappointed,
Yeah,
and we don't. I mean, we can't pretend
Well,
to
we still
understand
have
the
questions.
process of how they are appointed. Like what
how was Adam Lynch appointed
what?
over Amy Worley?
or what what qualifies you to be on an economic development board? Like why were you
Amy.
specifically the one chosen?
Amy Worley.
She was-
I think
Satch's
she runs
daughter?
the Claiborne House.
She was up for.
That's not Satch's daughter, is it?
No,
She
I don't
she was
believe.
up and was going to be a contender for the chairman's position of the EDA, and there was a meeting that was held where she was dismissed, which is
But now she had the credentials and the
absolutely.
experience there,
Yeah.
and she was overlooked.
well, she was dismissed, which was
So,
that was
Unprecedented,
it was
perhaps?
unprecedented.
so where's the activists about women's rights and equality for
They
women
don't
in the
go stirring
workplace?
that pot.
Well, that's a whole nother.
That's another issue,
Yeah, that's a
man.
whole
I'm
other
gonna
can of
choke you.
worms. That's-
Well, I'm
But
just saying. I mean,
But it was. There's another story there, and that's all I'll say.
Well, let's just say,
Okay.
as
Okay.
from my libertarian standpoint, the EDA is unelected, and not that I even respect the elected process, because we're in a constitutional republic, but a lot of our elections come down to democracy, and at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, democracy is just two wolves and a sheep voting over what's for dinner, and you know what they're going to vote for. It's mob rule.
Yeah.
Like we need to be able to govern ourselves.
yeah. You should have to be able to run a shovel.
And I want people to once again understand when we come from this show, I understand that the mayor and the town council once again are operating within the boundaries that have been set forth by them. And they think they are making the right decisions for this town based off the boundaries that they have set. What my argument is those boundaries are complete and total horse shit. That's my argument here. I can respect Holland, and I can respect the town council from their positions, and I can respect the shit out of them for coming on and at least sitting down and having a conversation with us in the spirit of transparency and in the spirit of diplomacy. I take that as a mad sign of respect. I think me and Simon getting to sit down with them today and at least hash things out, at least maybe brought a bridge together from us. And at the end of the day, I don't want to say I don't care how it happens, but I want the citizens of Rocky Mount to be more prosperous. I want them to be happy, and I want that extended out to Franklin County. I want this to be a paradise for people. I want them to come visit here. I want them to spend their money, and I want to keep that money here. I want people to come spend their money at Foggy Ridge. I want people to spend their money at Melvin's Farm to Fork. I want them to spend their money in local establishments, but I want it to be done the right way.
Yeah.
I want people to do it because that is their decision and that is their choice. I want people to do it because that is the American way. I don't want anybody, coming down and saying this has to be done this way because 51% of the population says it. No.
Yeah.
Well, what we're going to end up seeing if we don't address this $5 million minimum finance deal that may or may not be approved with contingencies.
Can you say that one more time, very clearly? $5 million, minimum.
$5 million minimum.
Minimum.
That as part of a finance deal has to be burdened by the taxpayer. And I think that we've got just a real problem there with the overpricing which is abundantly clear when you do some comparisons. That we wouldn't meet on, and the fact that there is no client at the end. We know that we have a residential property issue, but this isn't the fix. I don't.
So I have a couple questions about
speculation.
that. So if it's residential, I guess it would become a state maintained road through there.
But the Daleville, the town center in Daleville right there, I mean, it's residential and commercial. I mean, they've got restaurants. I mean, it's like, restaurants. It'll be a combination. It's got, businesses. At the same time, it's got residential as well. It's kind of like a new modernized downtown.
But now we've got government managing that. And that's where, I mean, and which is why it's beyond like speculation.
Communism,
right? Because if they don't have a property or a developer
I'm saying
in mind,
if the government is controlling it,
yeah, and we know they run every business into the ground, so they can't actually, with their hand on their heart, say that we're going to deal with this in with a fiduciary responsibility for the taxpayer.
So
they're not accountable to them.
Yeah. So me living out of town, it's not going to affect me quite as much as it will, say, like Billy, but it will because the businesses in town. I mean, your property taxes is probably going to go up to help cover it. All right, and then every business in town, their taxes are going to go up to help cover it, which is going to affect the people that's coming from the county to the town. Which means that
their prices for burgers and fries and pizzas is all going to go up. Which means fewer and fewer people are going to show up to that restaurant because their money becomes more and more important because we are in a recession.
And here comes another bombshell. What happens to Tank Hill? What happens to that area?
That's a very interesting point. That is going to be an issue with the community.
That's why I love him. That's why I love him.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I love him.
You know property prices are going to be unattainable, and you know what happens after that, don't you?
I mean, is that going to push the lumberyards' property taxes to the roof? I mean, well, actually, I guess technically...
It will push all industrial...
I was going to say, they sit between 40 and the business park.
Ultimately, that pushes all industrial and low-cost housing further out.
The majority of people live over there. Okay, well, that property value goes up.
That's the side of town you and I did, that the fire log, the wood delivery.
Yes.
Okay, that side of town. Okay, the property taxes.
So Tank Hill, where we turned in and went to that fire delivery, the actual Tank Hill is right up around the Candlewood store.
Okay.
Right there. So, yeah, we were on the back.
We were right there.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the road would probably actually take you out. Matter of fact, I think it is. I think that road cuts through Tank Hill and goes on past.
I bet it does.
Back up and through there, yeah.
So what happens over there historically? Well, one of two things happen. Either the property values get so high that the people that own the place can't afford them anymore and they get evicted and the bank takes over.
It may not even be the property value. It may be the taxes.
The taxes, what I'm saying, the property taxes that they can't afford to pay, so eventually they come in and they condemn the house and take it over. Or the people that own the properties realize that this is what's happened and they end up selling out and trying to make a little bit of a profit and run on out the door, and those properties get owned up, and all those people that a lot of people claim to care about are now displaced, and where they're going to move to because they're, you know what I mean? Like, these are questions.
Like I said, low housing.
I respect the shit out of those two boys, and I can't wait to have them on here again. I want them in on this for that specific.
But that's exactly what will happen with the low cost housing, the low income housing, and industrial. So don't think a timber plant's going to last that long.
Look at history. Look at history. History shows us.
Don't you think that the concrete plant, which is an eyesore when you're coming into Rocky Mount, from that direction,
it's really not to me. I mean, I've seen it my whole life.
Oh, exactly. Me too. Yeah. And that's the part I don't get. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's just normal.
Right.
But for prospective business people, I can understand where.
Yeah. So
they would consider it there.
isn't this a sign of things to come? I would say yes. Interesting.
I just want capitalism to prevail. I want, you know what, if it does increase the property taxes on the side of town that, you know, that houses Tank Hill and Green Meadow Lane and all those areas, I hope that those people are smart enough. And I hope we get out here and educate them to say, you know what, make it worth your while.
Somebody's
hold
got
on,
to
hold on as long as you freaking can. If you've got to sit there and
pay out the ass for
exactly. Make them, and you walk away.
Excuse
a
my
winner.
French, Mama.
No, walk away a winner. I don't care. I don't care if you're on that side of town and you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the case may be. Make it worth it, and you get your money's worth because that's. I mean,
well, hey, that's the price of development, right?
As a property developer, I think, in my opinion, that is a phenomenal development site. But the houses are all out of date. A lot of them are running down, so why not go through there? You can easily bulldoze a lot of them, move it back out of there. I mean, people have talked about that kind of thing. We're just bringing it. No, people won't talk about it in the open.
You don't.
I'll talk about it in the open.
I was going to say, you don't think the people that live up there on Grassy Hill that overlook that would rather see something else?
Houses similar to theirs?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what's going to happen. I mean,
yeah, that's what it's going to come to. It's just like it's gentrification, and it happens in cities everywhere. You know what I mean? Like it's a perpetual cycle.
So is this not the domino that sets that
well
domino effect rolling?
It very well could be.
That's why we would like Brian and Darnell, come on the show and let's talk about this. I mean, like we're trying to be in this together.
Let us.
You know what
I mean, give us y'all's perspective, and you know, tell us if we're, you know, 10 miles off course, or
I would be very interested to take to hear their perspective. But with regards to this deal, I still want a very, very close scrutiny of the contingencies that are part of the agreement that allows the taxpayer to get off the hook.
That's why I said, air your dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Lay it all out on the table. That will take away 75 to 80% of the questions.
Oh, I agree. But that
well, do you think that's going to happen?
Probably
that's
not.
The problem, you know.
There's about a 25% chance that it will.
Oh, man, you're being super generous. 25%.
I'm just saying. You see what I'm saying? All these questions we have can be answered 75 to 80% by knowing who paid what.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. If we can follow the money, that will tell us whether we can get off of it or not. All these contingencies.
Yeah, that's my concern, really, is the contingencies.
Lay the contingencies out.
And how genuine or corruptible can it be to move the goalposts when someone says the water table or the marshland is not suitable for development? At what point do they push and say, well, if we do this, can you do that?
I don't think that's what'll happen. I tell you what I think's will happen. I think they'll come in, everything will be peachy. They will say, let's do the deal. Let's get started on it. And about a year in, there's going to be some big conniption, like what was going on with Mountain Valley Pipeline, to do with the 200,000 minnows that live in that creek right there, and they're going to shut it down. Pull some bullshit like that. I mean, I can see that happening very soon. Yeah. I mean, the pipeline would be done, and everybody would be on their merry way if these crackheads would just shut up, let them put the pipeline in. And that goes back to another thing. You think you have rights. What did they do? They pulled eminent domain. Mm-hmm. The government said you have to sell. You have to.
At my price.
Well, when it come to that, there were some people who seen it coming. The offers were made, really good offers. And I don't fault them. You know, I sat on the fence about that. But the simple fact of the matter is, the government said, you don't own jack piddly shit. You have to sell so much of this for whatever price they give you now, and let them come through. Well, now guess who's holding them up? The federal government, and it's a freaking eyesore. You look at that beautiful farm. One used to be a donkey farm, and the other it's an old dairy farm, but he runs beef cows on it now. On Grassy Hill, on the Boone's Mill side of Grassy Hill.
Mm-hmm.
That's a freaking eyesore. And there's acres there that he can't even farm. That he'll be able to go back to farming, but he can't farm right now because they can't get their permits to come through and finish the freaking pipeline.
You've just touched on something that made me reflect. And it may be the root cause of this project and its development. The property owner has denied access and easement because it was never put in place for the sewage and storm drain system that it happens to be on that piece of property. Right? It's significant.
Break it down to me again.
The owner of the property, this 40 acres that's part of the concrete
60
plant,
or 65,
which
whatever.
then becomes 60, 65, whatever it is.
The whole mess we're talking about here.
Round the back there's a load of storm runoff and
yeah,
there's
if you ride
sewer
four-wheelers
lines.
back, if you know,
right.
I'm
So
good friends with people who own land back in the and if you're riding along the creek, if you don't watch out, you'll hit a manhole or two.
oh yeah. Now because there is no easement with the town, they can no longer maintain it because the property owner said, there's not a chance in hell that you're stepping foot on this property. You don't have easement. I'm not allowing you to maintain the water, whatever the waterworks are behind there. Now,
So are they
could
trying to
eminent-
buy them 40 acres as a whole?
Absolutely. This is part of the project.
But he doesn't have to sell, right?
He doesn't have to sell, but if it's at the right price, or playing devil's advocate here, if this is to do with the town and its water management system, why haven't they eminent domained it?
Or when is that coming?
That may be the root cause of this problem. Why haven't they eminent domained it?
That might be why it's $2 million over asking price.
Minimum.
Everyone's got a price, right? Or do you eminent domain it and I don't know. That may be. I'm just thinking out loud.
But they legally they can't eminent domain and take it from him.
Yes, they can. When you consider that the waterworks and storm drains are through the back there and they don't have easement to maintain it, they can eminent domain it if they chose. Because it is integral to the infrastructure of that part of the strip and development with all that. I mean, you've got Kroger there, Walmart there, Taco Bell running round to the concrete plant. Dollar Tree. Oh, yeah. So if you wanted to play hardcore, someone isn't. Just saying. It makes you wonder.
I'm gonna tell you
doesn't it?
what. I'm
It
gonna tell
makes
you what.
wonder.
I'm gonna put everybody, the board of supervisors, minus my new guy on there. You know, I got to give him a shout out. He's raising hell up there, and he's. I think he's going to be a good supervisor.
Chris and I talked for quite a bit yesterday while the boy was sleeping. I was in Southwest Virginia in the parking lot. I said, I'll talk to you after church. We had a good conversation. Credit.
Nick
Mitchell.
Nick Mitchell is raising hell.
I've heard good things.
Good.
Yes,
From multiple people.
from multiple people.
Multiple people.
All right, that's like a breath of fresh air.
There's some concern about some of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. But you know what? I'm not going to say eye for an eye, but fair about's fair play.
I can dig that.
That's all I'm going to say about that. And I agree with him 100%. On the on that, we can talk about that off air. But here's what the town council, board of supervisors, we represent hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people on this podcast.
Probably more accurate with the thousands.
We will
actually, without a doubt,
we will come up with a strategy to pack each and every one of y'all's meetings out and put the heat on y'all. We will raise the temperature in that room like Billy says. We will make y'all sweat. We are sick and tired of seeing our money spent on these backdoor slide deals. We will pack those meetings out in rotation if we have to. We will come up with a way to do it.
It's been done before.
It's been done before. We're sick of it. Get your shit together. Start respecting the people.
And their taxpayer dollars.
And their taxpayer dollars. I mean, hell, you wouldn't get paid if it wasn't for our taxes.
Yeah, which, by the way, are stolen. And you can make any argument in the world that you want to about taxation as theft or not theft. But at the end of the day, you don't pay your taxes, and you don't pay your taxes, and you don't pay your taxes. What happens? Eventually somebody comes to the door, and then somebody else comes to your door. Then eventually somebody with a gun comes to your door, and you either pay or you end up in a cage somewhere. Now let's flip that around. Let's say that for this podcast, I believe in this podcast. I think this podcast is going to reach hundreds of thousands, close to millions.
And if
but you know what? I need your support. You don't want to give me that support, I'm coming to your house and asking for it. You're not going to give it to me, I'm going to come to your house again and ask for it. The fourth time I come to your house and ask for it, I'm just going to take it. You know what happens to me? I end up in jail behind bars. Mm-hmm. If you come to me and you want it and I don't give it to you, you won't come to me and you want it and I don't give it to you. What happens? Eventually I end up in a cage. What's the difference? The government. That's it. The government can put you in a cage. I can't. But at the end of the day, it's all stealing. Taxation is theft. At the end of the day, you should be able to do what you want to do with your money.
See,
if your side of town wants to get together and make a community, and that's what.
You got a little more constitutionalist in you than you think you do.
Well, I mean, I believe in the premise of the Constitution, but I also agree that if the Constitution was as good as we'd like to believe, it would have stopped a lot of this bullshit that has happened, and it hasn't. So that's where my gripe about it comes through, because if it really did work, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in.
Yeah.
So they're just subverting the Constitution.
Yeah.
So. You know.
Now, when I said put the heat on you, I mean no violence, absolutely.
No.
I mean fill the seats up. Let them see that you are a community. I might have to backstroke a little bit when I say this, but I read an article that says a community divided over January 6th. And it was to do with the lawsuit going on with BLM or Bridget with the house up there in Boone's Mill. This community is really not divided. The news should be ashamed of them for trying to divide us. We're really not divided.
I think that
we just haven't come together in a long time. That doesn't mean we're divided. You know, get together, team up with a couple people in your community or in your social groups or whatever, and say, hey, we're going to go to this board of supervisors meeting this month. We're going to go to the town council this month. Take turns, rotate, pack the houses out. You know, at the end, if they'll talk to you, start asking questions, you know, do your research, ask questions. We're not divided. We need something to come together on, and this project right here could very well be something. that brings us together. Because whether you believe it or not, if this project goes through, and it more than likely will, the people that live on Tank Hill are good people. I've done work over it. Not all of them. You've got your bad apples in every group. That's black, white, Hispanic, whatever. But I've worked over on Tank Hill, and the people that I dealt with on a day-to-day basis when I was over there, the residents were phenomenal. If you don't think that this project will raise the property values, and it may not be 10 years down the road, but you're going to start to see the effects 15 to 20.
Oh, much sooner than that. Much sooner.
Well, I'm just trying to give plenty of leeway. But you're going to get pushed out of your homes on that side of Rocky Mountain. It's a guarantee.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't
And
think this project is going to stop that.
If it won't, well, it is damn sure going to speed it up.
Exactly.
And if it won't, I'd like to hear the town council say that it won't. I would like for them to go on record saying that this will not affect them.
The tax dollar thing for them.
That way we can put their feet to the fire.
The tax dollar issue with property tax, they do not give a shit.
They're politicians at the end of the day.
Well, they've got their hand in the cookie jar, and that's all that matters.
Politicians.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, make a good team. That's all that's all I can say about that.
Okay. You guys have been scheming. I don't know what's going on, but there's a knowing look from the pair of you.
Can you imagine the Appalachian Podcast sitting on the Board of Supervisors?
Oh, dear God, no.
Huh?
That should make them scared. Think of those little backdoor projects.
No.
Well,
But seriously,
me and Chris had this conversation yesterday, and I even brought it up to Simon here today. I said, there's a big contingent of the population out there of Franklin County that I go out of my way to speak for, and I think we all speak for. And number one, they can't listen to the show. Number two, they can't support the show. But I believe their ideologies to be some of the most important.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Strongest. And I strive. The reason I start this show, the reason I push this show, the reason we have these conversations is because I want the people of the world to have the community that this community has. I want you to be able to show up to your neighbor's house if it burns down and you build it back. If your neighbor has cancer.
In a matter of a week.
Mm-hmm. Not months, not years, like insurance companies.
No blue tape.
No blue tape. You go in and you rebuild it up and you got it back up again. I want, if you get sick, that this community turns around and your medical bills are taken care of. You don't worry about the nonsense. Cut the middleman out of it. And that's a community, Chris, that the overwhelming majority, and I know there's a few out there that sneak away and listen to it, but the overwhelming majority don't listen to.
I tell you what,
they don't know we're speaking for them. They don't know we support them. And, we're not making a dime off of them. We couldn't give a shit less because those are the ideals that we want to instill amongst the people listening to this show.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Nail on the head there.
Yeah. Do you know how Amish move a 60 by 60 barn?
No.
About 400 people.
I was going to say 300, but 400 is probably a little bit more realistic.
And I'm not talking about a metal barn. I'm talking about a barn with a 6x6 post, true 2x6 beams and rafters, and I'm talking about a barn. Everybody from that district shows up, and some from other districts, and they take 6x6 post and go underneath the base.
It's just phenomenal.
And everybody in unison picks up. They look like ants.
Unreal. Isn't that great?
This show would not be possible without people that came from that community. Like my stepdad and best man at my wedding, namesake of my son, Amos Denton, you crazy bastard. You know what I mean? Like that's the inspiration behind this. Like that's a lifestyle, and once again, you got to find that middle ground. Like you might think that lifestyle is
whatever, but I'm gonna tell you right now,
but you know,
that lifestyle has been proven over and over and over and over again that it's worth what they give up,
what they put into it,
and what you put into it.
Turn that TV off. Turn the radio off.
I can well believe
their family
don't be
connection
by the outside, and that family
their family connections,
and that family connection should reach out, and that should be the standard for our community.
It's enough German Baptist people in this county right now that if they all went to the polls and voted one day, they would change
everything.
Every seat. Every seat.
Yeah,
I can well believe that. I can well believe that.
And we love it.
And to think the Amish actually voted, was it a few months back?
First election they've ever been a part of.
Something went on with the Amish where an Amish community actually took part in a vote.
Well, it was probably in Pennsylvania.
I'm sure it
where
was.
Where they were harassing that farmer.
I'm sure it was.
Those boys haven't figured out. The Amish, the Mennonites, and the German Baptists of this world haven't figured out. And unless, in case you haven't been paying attention, the economy is in a tailspin. Banks are collapsing, and we're getting ready to get pushed back about 100 years. And who's going to be survived on the other end of that? It's going to be people that know how to do everything, and that ain't the majority. Community. Y'all. That ain't the majority, y'all.
They practice community.
And I'm gonna tell you what: if you think you're gonna walk into their house, you know, most of them will whip us 3 ways to Sunday.
Yeah,
barehanded. Don't even get me started on them farmers.
Don't do it.
Now I come from that background too, so
I know you do.
It's going to take them probably 4 or 5 Sundays to whip me, but
because you can break some ribs.
Yeah, I can break some ribs.
All right, Simon, what do we do from here?
I don't know. Let's see where the chips land. You know, I mean, they've reached out to us. We've had a chat. We've walked a little bit back here. We still have a fundamental disagreement on some pretty major sides of this deal. Let's see what the people say. I mean, you know.
That's what
write to us.
That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. Like, we have respect for the process that has been laid out before them, and we are going to try and fight and divert that process as much as we possibly can. And at the end of the day, I hope somewhere in between we can all reach a conclusion that benefits the people, not only the town, but the county. I mean, like I really get irritated at the people that take the town and the county and they separate them. Look, we're all the same.
Oh, very much so.
We're the same. Like, the overwhelming majority, you come to Rocky Mount to spend your money for commerce.
It's the county seat. We all have
county
a slice in the pie.
It's where the courthouse is.
We got skin in the game.
And there is a lot of crazy in-betweens between the county and the town. Like, at the end of the day, the county still owns it, so the town still has to abide by this, and this is it's just a lot of. But we're all the same. Despite all of the nonsensical innuendos and the back and the forth between, you know, county, town, all the kind of nonsense, we're all connected. And I want people of the county, I want the farmers of the county, I want the patriots of the county to all understand that what happens in Rocky Mount also affects you. The ripple effect will affect people in Fairmont. It will affect people in Sontag. It will affect people in Snow Creek, Bonita, Hardy. Thank you so much for coming out and at least having the balls to come sit down across from Simon and I. And let's acknowledge it, Simon. That just doesn't happen a lot of places. It doesn't happen a lot of places.
That was unusual.
Really doesn't.
That was unusual.
Give them credit for coming, whether we agree with them or not, which we don't. But we'll settle that in the course of public opinion.
Yeah,
we'll put our side out. You'll put your side out, and we'll bring people on like Chris who might not have quite the stake in the game as some of us do, but you always want that different set of opinions. Everybody should have a voice. And I think that the county and the town of today are well connected. And I think the things that Chris talk about here on the show, I think the things that you talk about on the show, I think the things that I talk about on the show are all very, very relevant, and they're very well connected. If the games are going to be played, they're very well connected, and we have to find ways to very well connect ourselves. And that's the problem. Like, we'll say, well, that ain't my part of town, I ain't worried about it. Or, well, this ain't the lake, I ain't worried about it. Look, we're all connected. We're all connected. We all need to be fighting the same damn fight. I don't care if you're a rich tech-com billionaire that's got a house down at the lake, or you're some farmer up in Endicott. We're all amongst the same local government. And until we rein in the local government, there's no way in hell we're going to rein in the state government. And there's no possible way we're going to rein in the federal government. So let's start off. Let's have these conversations. Let's talk to people. And let's figure out ways to better our freaking community.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, the engagement has always been an issue with any of the bodies that we deal with, whether it's school board, town council, or board of supervisors. Engagement has always been the issue, and that's actually been the downfall.
A lot of times they schedule up the freaking meetings for Thursday at 2 o'clock. Like, let's start showing up to these meetings and saying, "Why are you doing this?" Apply pressure. Apply pressure.
Well,
you know,
engage.
At the end of the day, engage and apply pressure. I mean, it's one and the same. But let them know you're there, because if you don't let them know they're just going to do whatever the hell they want to do anyway. If 5 people show up, 10 people show up, and you keep multiplying that. I mean, Chris is a fine example of that. You show up and you apply pressure. That's what we have to start doing. And no matter what aisle of the aisle you are on, that's what we have to start doing. We have to come together amongst ourselves and figure out a way to overcome the middleman that continues to...
Yeah, it isn't 7 people in charge of our destiny, or however many board of supervisors there are over in Franklin County.
7.
7. It's, again, 7, which is good.
7 board of supervisors, 7 council members, and 7 board of
school board.
School board's got 8. There's the only anomaly. We had that argument many years ago.
Yeah, sorry.
So, that engagement... with those people, they need to be truly representative of us, we the people.
So right now,
I'll leave it at that.
Right now, there's 22 people
that govern and influence our existence in Franklin County.
In Franklin County, 22 people out of what?
65,000.
Yeah, along with the administrators behind them that do interesting things.
That's still probably around 65.
But they get their marching orders.
Well, they're appointed, not elected.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
so there is. I mean, that when you look at it in that perspective, that's interesting.
We have the numbers.
Oh yeah, we have the numbers.
Let's bring it together. Black, white, straight,
makes no difference.
Gay, man, woman, it does not matter.
Makes no difference.
Us versus the government at the end of the day is the best possibility you can have. Thank you once again, Holland and the
Moore.
Robert Moore,
it was Robert,
the town
Moore,
manager,
Robert
for coming
Moore.
out and
engaging.
speaking with us and engaging.
They engaged.
Yes, they engaged. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We might disagree with you, and we will disagree with you, and we'll have our quorums, but at least you're being transparent enough to come out and have a conversation with us, so credit where credit is due. And for Nick and Chris for coming out and for these 2 episodes kind of combining. We had our opinions on the first one. We kind of, backed off of those and not really backed off to some degree, but amended them to still get our point across.
With hopefully more factual information.
Because we were a couple things that we had wrong, and we want to be transparent as well, and we want to give credit where credit is due, and we understand that at the end of the day that they are operating within the bounds that they can operate in, and we're going to sit there and challenge them bounds all day long. And as long as we can have a respectable discourse, and as long as we can come together and be gentlemen about it, I think that's a good start. That's the best thing you could ask for.
It's a good start.
In this moment in time.
Yeah, that's
the best thing you could ask for. So appreciate them. Appreciate everybody that showed up. Hopefully here in the next few weeks we can get Brian and Darnell back on here and we can discuss this issue. Maybe Chris, you'd be willing to join us on that episode, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
You think so? You think that might be?
I'm sure I can make time for that one.
Well, we'll make, and it's because we appreciate so much their input. We appreciate them having the balls to come onto the show and at least speak their mind.
I was going to say, don't get me wrong. I mean, we disagree with some of the things they say, but if we can
find a common ground,
then that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
It's all we want.
Yeah,
that is all we want. So,
and it might be helpful to kind of lighten the mood. You got a black redneck in here sitting with them, so I mean, who knows?
If you want to lighten the mood, then we need a little bit of alcohol and some good food to go along with it. So I'm hoping Foggy Ridge might supply the ribeye steaks and.
Look at you!
You let me know.
I'm just trying. I'm trying to make this happen. We're gonna reach out to them. We got so many good people coming up. I know we talked about in the first part of the show. Best Bike Co. and come to town. That's gonna be a massive event. We'll talk more about that here later. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
lots going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. A lot in the future. Big thanks to Chris for coming out here and representing the.
I was gonna say, don't y'all get too used to having me here, but don't get too used to not having me either. We getting ready to hit that spring rush. So
it's coming.
It might be. It might be a few that I have to miss from time to time that I really want to make, but hey.
I like how you use Spring Rush as a reference for your wife saying you can't come here and hang out more often than you should be able to. That is political. That is a politician's move right there. It's like we got Spring Rush.
No, I know what's coming.
His wife says you only get a couple of moments a week with Simon.
Yeah, she said you're limited 2 hours a week with Simon. And Simon said, well, I'll negotiate for 4 and maybe we can get 3.
Now she's heard my theory.
All right, look, thank everybody out there. Thank you, all of our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Appalachian Podcast. $3 a month minimum. You get some of these shows. This was supposed to be a Patreon show. We were just supposed to come on here and gripe about this.
But for the benefit of the community, we're going to put it right out there. We're going to just turn this into a regular
show, yes. But you can still go on there. You can still go on at Cash App, Cash Symbol, Get on Tap. One-time donation, WB Riddle at PayPal, Venmo at Get on Tap, one-time donation, whatever you can. Like, we're taking this money, we're investing it right back into the community. Next show, we'll sit there and once again update our Patreon list. We're up to 50 Patreon subscribers. So look, you get shows like this, every couple of weeks.
You probably be at 80 by the time this one's all said.
I hope so. And look, we're investing this money back into the community. You know what I mean? Like we appreciate everything everybody out there does, the farmers that are listening, everybody that, look, we're speaking for y'all. We want more than anything for us to just
give us your opinions.
Simple, give us your opinions as well. Like, send us, if you don't want to put it out there, just send us an email. Whatever your case might be, we'll bring up that question. We'll talk about it. We'll debate it.
I mean, how many people were in agreement? We had Ben Pinkard. Who was the other chap that you were? We all ended up in agreement, and that to me.
I'm not
is interesting. Well, no, you don't have to. But anyway, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Didn't you do a survey on one of the podcasts?
I don't believe so.
Could you not put a survey out?
Well, I could if I wanted to.
Just be like, for this $5 million spent, not for the $5 million spent, and just that, I mean.
Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down.
Yeah. And see what the numbers are.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
I
mean, it would be great for people to engage on the comments.
Yeah.
And just say, look, we're talking out of our arses, or we support you in this. There are more questions that need answering. That's all we're after. And you can guide the show.
Yeah, there was a great conversation that took place on Facebook.
Yes, there
Plenty
was.
of them.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Anyway.
Yep.
Bum.
You know the places to find us at. We're going to go ahead and get off here. Much appreciation to Nick Ferrari, Chris Montgomery for coming on here, being our lovable co-host. I think we got a lot accomplished tonight. A lot of questions need to be asked. Look, just ask them. Ask the questions. Go out there, see them, ask them. Look, it's your money.
What's the end game?
It is your money. You should be aware of it. So, we'll see where we're at next week. I have no idea, but we got a lot of fun things coming up here in the future. So stay tuned and.
Peace
Simon,
out.
Take us out.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.